Around 15 years ago, when both of my kids were toddlers, I was putting them to bed one night, and my son was adamant that he wear his favorite red race car pajamas. I happily obliged, helped him change into them, and tucked him into bed. Then I sat down at my kitchen table with a friend who had come over to chat and catch up. The way that my apartment was set up, you could see my kids' bedroom doorway from the kitchen table. My friend and I were talking for a while before we were suddenly interrupted by the sound of my son screaming. We both turned and looked at the bedroom doorway and saw my son standing there, loudly crying, shrieking, and wearing his green pajamas with airplanes on them. Everything inside of me was screaming that this was wrong. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end and a cold shiver shot down my spine. My friend and I wordlessly stared at each other for a second. We both knew that my son couldn't change his pajamas by himself yet. We looked back at the doorway and my son was gone. We ran to the bedroom and found him tucked in bed, still sleeping peacefully in his red race car pajamas. My friend asked me if I saw him standing there in his green airplane pajamas, and I confirmed that I had. My friend freaked out and left. I slept on my kids' bedroom floor that night to make sure nothing happened to them. My friend and I still talk about it to this day. It's one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me. My son, of course, doesn't remember any of it, but he loves hearing the story of how his doppelganger scared the crap out of us. I was a child, probably about 8 or 9. I was laying in my bed, the entire house was dark and everyone was asleep. The only light I could see was the light in the hallway. I've always seen ghosts and spirits, and I always made my parents leave the hall light on when everyone went to bed, so I could see what was in the hall or in my room. I often saw a dark shadow man in the hallway. He would stand in my doorway and watch me as I watched him through little fingers I held tightly over my eyes. I would always try to will myself to keep them shut, but it didn't often work, and I would inevitably take a peek. The fingers helped me keep my eyes closed, but not 100% of the time. This particular night I was lying in bed, watching the light in the hallway. From the light came this type of misty figure I could barely make out. It was coming into the darkness of my room, and as it got further away from the light, it got clearer. After a few feet, it became the exact vision of my eldest sister. Now my middle sister and I shared a room most of our lives. So the foot of my bed sat just beside the head of her bed. It almost served as a railing of sorts between my feet and her head. The doppelganger of my eldest sister was obviously sneaking in, almost on tiptoes, and she didn't notice I was lying in my bed, wide awake, watching her. She started heading towards my middle sister, who lay fast asleep, oblivious to the ghost girl that was coming her way. She crept closer and closer. The closer she got, the more my heart started pounding. What was she doing? What did she want with my sister? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. With only a step or two between the two of them, I shot straight up in bed and aggressively blurted, "Who are you? What do you want with my sister?" It actually appeared that I frightened the doppelganger, because she immediately whipped her head around to look at me with startled eyes. She then slowly started backing away from my sister and out of the room. When her form once again hit the light, she disappeared, never to be seen again. The doppelganger looked just like my sister, but every fiber of my being told me it was not her. I asked my eldest sister in the morning if she came into my room last night, knowing full well she hadn't. She looked at me like I was crazy and said, "No, why would I come into your room?" I'll always remember that, because I've never seen a ghost that looked like anyone I knew, especially someone that was still living. This happened to me about 2 years ago, around late December of 2020. I was 19 around the time. Me and my girlfriend were at my grandparents' place having a couple drinks out in the garage until it got too cold to stay out there. It was one of the coldest nights of the year, and there was a bad blizzard that night. We live in Canada, by the way. We both went back to the house around 2 a.m. She went into my room, and I went out in the kitchen to cook something for us in the oven. I was on my phone, standing alone, out in the kitchen, when my grandma and my girlfriend both walked out into the kitchen together. It was a bit strange because my grandma is never up that late, and it was even stranger that my girlfriend came out at the same time. The first thing my grandma said to me is, "Don't go back out there tonight. On a night like this, people lose their lives." I was a little bit freaked out because I was just about to head back out to the garage to grab something. I never told anyone I was going back out. My girlfriend and my grandma just stood there staring at me with the weirdest expressions I've ever seen, with very unnatural smiles that didn't seem right. My girlfriend then walked over and gave me a hug. When I grabbed her, she was ice cold. I commented about this, and when I mentioned how cold she was, her expression changed. Her smile faded, and she looked up at me with really serious, sad eyes and didn't say anything. There was something else I noticed, too. She smelt like a campfire, an earthy, smoky smell. There wasn't an explanation for this, and she didn't smell like that earlier. I swear at that moment I got chills all over. There was something so off about it all, but I couldn't put my finger on it. My girlfriend whispered in my ear, "Don't go outside tonight." She walked back over to my grandma. She stood beside her with her head down and a serious expression while my grandma was still staring at me with that weird fake smile. It was so bizarre, I just stood there speechless. The wind began to literally fucking howl outside. My grandma turned and looked at my girlfriend. "Don't mess with black magic," she said. "Nothing good is going to come from it." My girlfriend didn't say anything. She continued looking down. I stood there, confused. My girlfriend looked up at me. "We have to go now," she said. They both started walking away. My grandma looked back at me for a second. "See you on the flip side," she said, with that weird smile. I got another chill through my whole body when she said that. They turned the corner and left the kitchen. I stood there for a while. I didn't know what to make of it all. I decided not to go out to the garage. I'd go out and get my stuff the next morning. I stayed out in the kitchen for another 10 minutes until the food was done. I went back into my room with it. My girlfriend was in bed, laying down. She got up and we put on a movie. I guess I was quiet because she asked me, "What's wrong?" I told her everything was okay. It took me 10 minutes to say something about it because, to be honest, I was still frightened by it. I turned to her and asked why her and my grandma came out to the kitchen. The second I said that, my nose started bleeding. I ran to the bathroom and got something to stop the bleeding. When I went back in the room, I told my girlfriend everything. As you can guess, she said she never went out the kitchen, and she swore on someone's life she was in the room the whole time. She also didn't smell like smoke anymore. We went and woke up my grandma right after, and my grandma said the same thing. She actually thought we were trying to mess with her, and she didn't believe me. We were so freaked out after this we had trouble sleeping for the rest of the night. The part that really messed my girlfriend up was when I told her about how cold she felt and how she smelt like smoke. The only explanation we could come up with was that maybe if I went outside that night, something bad would have happened to me. Maybe the spirits of dead relatives watching over me came to me in that form so I wouldn't be scared and they could get the message through. The last part of it that made sense was the part about the black magic. My girlfriend just got a book about witchcraft from her friend the week prior. My girlfriend never opened the book again after this. She took what was said as a warning. I've been thinking about writing this story down for the past 2 years, and my girlfriend encouraged me to finally do it because maybe someone else out there had an experience like this. To this day, I still get chills thinking about it, especially the last thing said. "See you on the flip side."